Well, okay, so I didn't expect a reindeer ride to be so exhilarating. I thought I was going to have a relaxing trip around the wooded area here, but we are actually travelling on a frozen lake. We're in Alta, one of the second northernmost places that you can live in Norway. And as you can tell, we are in the middle of the winter. It's freezing in here, so much that the lake is completely frozen over. So why would I put myself through this? Why would I travel around Norway in the freezing cold? Well, I've got a very long bucket list, which I want to absolutely complete. And if I make it through this journey alive, I think I'm going to do that quite well here in Norway. That's a great way to get my Norwegian journey started. Cheers, Rudolph. His name isn't Rudolph, that's the only reindeer name I know, so we'll go with that one. And you'll notice that Rudolph here, sorry if that's not your name, is the only reindeer with antlers. That's because this is the time of year when they start to drop off. So these are going to go soon. You can even tell on that one that it's starting to peel back. But reindeers here in Norway are really important. They eat them. They're great for the Sami people. They turn them into skins and clothes. And did I mention that they eat them? They eat a lot of reindeer here in Norway. And you can probably tell that he doesn't want to really be my friend, do you? They're actually quite scared of humans. Oh, okay, we've got a bit more interaction than I was hoping for. Those antlers are very scary now. But the Sami people are the real masters of reindeer, not me. So hopefully later on in my journey I'll find out a bit of story about that. But for now, Rudolph, I think you need to rest. You've been a bit sleepy, bless him. So cheers for the ride. See you soon. I know it doesn't look like it now, but actually in the summer this river is home to some massive salmon. I've seen the pictures of them, but for right now in the winter it's just me plodding along in my snowsuit, which I've actually grown quite attached to. It's very warm. I'd recommend you borrowing one if you're going to visit this part of the world, but for now I need to say goodbye to it. I can tick reindeer sleds off my bucket list, but Alta has so much more to offer, so I need to carry on and crack on with this bucket list. There's no angels in Norway, but there's plenty of snow. Sorry, that was crap, wasn't it? That was a terrible joke. Great snow angel though. An absolutely huge part of my bucket list here in Norway is to see the Northern Lights. Now, I've seen these things in pictures and films whilst I was growing up, and if I'm going to see them anywhere, it's going to be here in Alta, which is considered the unofficial capital of the Northern Lights. Now, to see them, you need a few things. You need a perfectly clear sky, you need a very cold night, and just a little bit of luck too, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about any of those, so I need as much help as possible. So I'm going to head to the Alta Museum where there's tons of information, and hopefully some of that might help. Now, long before I came to Alta in my silly orange jacket in the hope of seeing Northern Lights, there were ancient civilizations which lived in the area, and they left their mark, almost like Stone Age selfies, which you can see in this breathtaking landscape behind this museum, making this area a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which you can learn all about here at the Alta Museum. So a huge portion of this museum is actually dedicated to the rock carvings or petroglyphs. They're some of the best evidence we have of ancient civilizations. But I'm struggling to actually call them rock art because, I mean, look at it. It's sort of, after a few moments of looking at it, I can tell that it's supposed to be a reindeer, but Then you've got to think about how long ago they were produced. This one in particular is 6,000 to 7,000 years old. Then how they were created, it was just like we can see here, a rock tapping against a rock, tapping against another rock, to then create something that even resembles a reindeer, and for it to have lasted that long, that's pretty impressive. The way that these rock carvings were first found is not the way that you might have thought. So for years, professional archaeologists came and explored the area and didn't find any evidence of ancient civilizations. But it was down to the average Joe like me or you. A local man was walking between his boathouse and the shore, and as the light was going low in the sky, he saw some strange carvings that resembled a reindeer. And that was the first stone carving that was found in Ulster. And then boom! World Heritage Site. But there are thousands of stone carvings in and around Ulster, so I'm almost guaranteed to see one if I wanted to. So I think I need some information about something a little more rare, and the whole reason why I'm here in Ulster, the Northern Lights. If you've ever managed to see a picture or a video of the Northern Lights, you know how magical they seem. They seem almost alien or extraterrestrial, but there's actually an accepted scientific explanation to what's going on. What it is particles from the sun being drawn to the Earth's magnetic poles, creating these incredible bright lights that sort of dance through the sky. But even though there is this accepted scientific explanation, there's still lots of mystery, legend, and even superstition which cling to the Northern Lights. Each year, I'm sure thousands, no, millions of people must try to see the Northern Lights. But whilst I've been here in Norway, at least 3 people have told me about a superstition where I'm not supposed to wave a white glove at the Northern Lights, or else they'll kill me. They'll come down and take me up into the sky, and that'll be the end of me, which I don't believe. But even today, some Sami people won't go outside when the Northern Lights are going on because they're scared about what's going to happen to them. Now, I'm sure the Northern Lights are nothing new to the Sami people, but it sounds like a bit of a waste to me. I know there's like a scientific explanation and all that, but that was magical. That was absolute magic. Now, if I'm going to complete everything on my bucket list here in Norway, I'm going to have to get better with this cold because this city boy isn't handling it too well currently. In order to acclimatise myself to the freezing temperatures, I'm going to spend a night here at the Sørresniva, a hotel made entirely out of ice. So I've just had a little wander around just to get my bearings, and it looks like the rooms are that way, cooler rooms on that side, and then there's a bar area up there, the chapel's around there, but this seems to be sort of like the entry, the foyer, you could say, because after all it is a hotel, and it's covered in these incredible ice sculptures. It looks like Vikings was the theme this year. They change the theme up every single year, and we've even got a little scene going on here with a Viking king. Actually, I probably shouldn't touch them. You're not allowed to touch the sculptures. A lot of work has gone into creating each one of these. But whilst you're sitting at home, you might be thinking, God, I'm jealous. I wish I could wander around an ice hotel. But let me tell you, the grass isn't always greener, because as this ice is probably gonna let you know, it is freezing in here. Okay, so this must be the ice chapel, and actual weddings take place in here, around 20 a year, and even though it's below freezing, I've heard that it's very romantic. We've even got a lovely ice chandelier, entirely, like everything else, made of ice. Now, we just need my own bride to turn up. Unless she's got cold feet, of course. Anyway, enough of my awful jokes. I need to get settled into my room. Welcome to my room, and I can assure you there is still no heating in here. But some of the higher end rooms in this hotel are themed. So down the corridor we've got things like Snow White, we've got Alice in Wonderland, we've even got Aladdin, but I have gone for the King Arthur themed room. Why? Because King Arthur is a legendary king in England, where I come from, and I'm hoping that memories of home are going to keep me warm in this cold night. But I've got a nice big bed, as you can see. It's probably king size actually, and it's covered in reindeer furs, so it might be quite comfy, and also the sleeping bags on hand if I need them. But I need to get to sleep pretty soon, because I'm going to be getting up shortly, because when the sun comes down, something very exciting is going to be happening. After the initial shock wears off, it is actually sort of getting rather cozy. It's hard to forget that you're sleeping under literally hundreds of tons of ice though. And a night in a place like this, a themed room in an ice hotel, isn't going to come cheap. But if you're as mad as me and you're desperate to tick off your bucket list, it just has to be done, doesn't it? It's a once in a lifetime experience. And actually it will be once in a lifetime, because I don't think I'm going to be sleeping anywhere as cold as this ever again, if I can help it. There's one thing that people come this far north of the Arctic Circle to see. That is the aurora borealis, and the laws of modern day social media dictate that we need a picture as proof, and of course to get as many likes and comments and shares as possible. And don't get me wrong, I want some of that action too, so I'm going to try and take a picture of the aurora borealis, northern lights to its mates, but my smartphone isn't going to cut it. I'm going to need a proper camera just like this one, and also a better location. There's too much light pollution around here at the moment, so we're going to go out of town. But it's worth mentioning that nothing is guaranteed. I might not even get to see them, so I've got everything, and I mean everything, crossed. Let's go get these northern lights. Well, if we're going to get this picture of the elusive northern lights, then things are going to have to get, unfortunately, a little bit technical. So if you're a keen photographer, don't listen to me, you're going to know probably a lot of this, but if you're not, if you're an amateur like me, then I'd listen up because this might help. So you're going to need a camera like this one, a pretty fancy camera, a DSLR if you would like to say, and you're going to have to change some of the settings. So you're going to switch it to manual, so that's the little M. You're going to set it to infinity focus, so that's, you know, the infinity sign, it looks like that. And then that's where things get a little more tricky. So you need to get into the settings and change the ISO number. That needs to be between 800 to 40,000. Now, if you want to know, that's going to change how grainy your picture is. So it might take a bit of trial and error to get that just right. Then the aperture, that is the f-stop number, so that's the number next to the little squiggly f. That needs to be between 2.8 and a 1.4. And I should also mention the shutter speed. That's how long your camera uses to take the picture. That should be no higher than about 20 to 25 seconds. Otherwise you'll get star trails, and the stars aren't the star of this picture, the aurora borealis. So if you mix all that technicality together, you might just get a cracking photo of the Northern Lights. I guess the Northern Lights are a bit like buses in England. None come for the longest time, then all of a sudden they all come at once. So it's really about picking your moment, and that's the most difficult part, really. There are apps and websites that can help give you an educated guess, but really it's about you. It's about your perseverance, your patience, your staying power, and your ability to withstand the cold, because the Northern Lights don't happen unless it's cold. It's about -5, -6 right now, and I can tell you that underneath my 4 pairs of socks, my toes are starting to turn blue. So it's all about sticking it out for the right moment. I think that's... I thought it was a cloud to start with, because we've been out here so long, your eyes begin to play tricks on you, but all of a sudden just green beginning to fill the sky, and now it's gone. I know there's like a scientific explanation and all that, but that was magical. That was absolute magic. There's no argument there. And I know it probably wasn't the strongest showing of the Northern Lights. It was more like sort of a bright green smudge on the sky, but hopefully it's going to turn out better on the camera and I'll get all those likes on social media. But it is cold now. I've been out here for a while. I think that's the best we're going to get tonight. So that's the Northern Lights done. There's not that many roads, and the roads which there are quite winding and very narrow and covered in snow. In England, I wouldn't dream of driving on these roads, but in Norway, I haven't got a choice. Norway is one of those places that's been on my bucket list forever. It's not far from home. It's sitting just above Scotland, boasting about all the fun you can have here. Well, the time is right. I'm embracing the cold. I've got 4 pairs of socks on, 2 pairs of underwear. I've got my shades on. That's actually quite bright. And I'm ready to tick off my bucket list here in Norway. Well, that's Ulta just about done there, but there's a snowstorm setting in, so we're going to get out of Ulta. We're going even further north, as far north as you can go in Europe. We're going to North Cape. around Norway probably isn't the easiest way to get from A to B, but it's a big country and I'm covering a lot of distance, so for me it probably is the most sensible option, but I'm finding that it's quite a task. The road network in Norway isn't great, probably because of how many mountains they have to build through. So there's not that many roads, and the roads which there are quite winding and very narrow and covered in snow, especially this far north. So it's fairly difficult to drive on. In England, I wouldn't dream of driving on these roads, but in Norway, I haven't got a choice. So I'm having to stay focused. But when there is scenery like this, there's a mountain every 5 minutes on my left. There's every now and again, there's a frozen lake. It's quite a nice place to sort of look around. So I'm finding it hard to not enjoy the view too much and to keep my eyes on the road. Well, here we are, the northernmost tip of Europe. So we have done Alta. We're here in North Cape, or Nordkapp if you want to sound like the Norwegians. So there's not much more further north that we can actually go. It's not even Norway anymore. So the rest of my journey is going to be heading back down south, where hopefully it's going to be a little bit warmer. But we're not quite at the tip of Europe just yet. That's waiting for us up there. We're very far north here, but still very much in Europe. If you wanted to see the North Pole, then you've still got another 2,000 kilometers to go in that direction. So you're thinking, that's not that impressive, but really, this is as far north as I and many other people will ever get to go in their whole entire lives. So let me have my moment. It's almost easy to forget where you are on a map when you're faced with this incredible view, the cliffs, the mountain tops, and then just the wide open seas. But this is actually the point where two oceans meet, the North Atlantic and the Arctic Ocean. And people have been coming here as tourists since the late 19th century, and this is why, for this absolute entire reason, to just be as north as you absolutely can. I'm actually trying to imagine what it's like 2,000 kilometers north at the Arctic, at the North Pole. But I think, in all honesty, it's actually quite hard to talk, it's that cold up here. This is definitely as far north as I'm happy being. A monument. So that's a bit of an achievement, isn't it? Getting to the northernmost point of Europe. It's quite a special thing so early on in my trip. I've travelled literally miles and miles over difficult icy roads through snowstorms and everything else to get to this point right here, right now. And now what? Well, if you thought that that was all I'm going to be doing on this journey, then you are completely wrong. There's so much more adventures and excitement that Norway has to offer for me, but I can't go any further north. That is not possible right now. We'd be swimming. So we're going to have to drive south. So I'll see you in Tromsø.